Hi, I'm Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gahler. I'd like to take a few minutes to let you know about an agenda going on in Annapolis yet again this year that will leave you and your family less safe and is going to lead to an increase in violent crime in our communities and in our state. Police are always the group many blame when crime goes up. But in reality, the crime rate is being driven by politicians in Annapolis. Not surprisingly, it is those same politicians who also blame the police to distract from the outcomes of their actions. Sadly, for all of us who do care, this is not new. We have seen legislation year after year for at least the last 10 years, which continues to be pro-criminal, anti-police, and only serves to make the problem of violent crime worse. And guess what? Looking at the bills moving forward again this year, there is no end in sight. A recent survey by Politico showed that 77% of Americans believe violent crime is a major problem in our country, and only 2% say it is not a problem at all. Pretty staggering numbers, and it would be my guess that those 2% were just early and active consumers of Maryland's recreational marijuana program. Well, let's look at some of the numbers, violent crime numbers in our region, to help us see if there really is a violent crime problem. Last year, each of our major surrounding cities showed homicide numbers that were near record highs, with a total of 1,052 murders, all within a 1-hour drive of Harford County. Although our county remains comparatively safe with low crime rates, make no mistake, we are not immune from bleed over from these crime-ridden areas. 10 years ago, the numbers looked a lot different. In fact, the total of these homicides in these same areas was about half of what it is today. It's not just murders, it's non-fatal shootings, armed robberies, and carjackings that have all skyrocketed in the last 10 years. The question now should be, why has violent crime risen so rapidly and in such a short time? Here in Maryland, the last 10 years, we have seen the Gun Safety Act of 2013, which we were all told by those pushing these gun control measures would reduce violent crime and homicides. As the homicide numbers we just discussed prove, that bill was another utter failure, as many predicted it would be. Next, our legislature passed the Justice Reinvestment Act, which was very successful at putting more criminals out on low or no bail and back into the community to further victimize law-abiding citizens. Finally, over the past 2 years, we have all been treated to police reform legislation that is destroying proactive policing and discouraging good men and women from considering a career in service to our communities, which makes all of us less safe. As I have spoken about in the past, these bills have made the job of being a police officer in Maryland much more difficult and have provided a sense of empowerment to criminals. So that's the past. Let's see what they're up to in Annapolis this year. To start with, and I'm sure you already guessed it, more gun control bills. In response to last year's very clear decision from the Supreme Court concerning not infringing on your Second Amendment right, Maryland's left-leaning legislatures want to add more restrictions on law-abiding citizens. Senate Bill 1 wants to limit the places where a permit holder can legally carry by forcing businesses to specifically allow permit holders to carry. This includes places like restaurants, grocery stores, movie theaters, and shopping malls. In short, all the types of places where citizens should have the right to protect themselves, since we know many mass shootings have taken place in these types of locations across the country. House Bill 824 seeks to put new restrictions on who can obtain a permit, increase training requirements, and double the fees for handgun permit holders. Once again, these bills will do nothing to address criminal behavior. They will do nothing to stop the rise in violent crime we are seeing in our state. They do nothing to keep you and your family safe. Next, we have House Bill 1071, which will prevent law enforcement from searching a person or vehicle based on just the odor of marijuana. Yes, marijuana will be legal for recreational use under certain conditions, but certain amounts and distribution or use in public or in a vehicle will still be illegal. Here in Harford County, just last year, our deputies recovered many guns from individuals illegally in possession of them during traffic stops. This legislation would have left those guns in the hands of those criminals. To put the icing on top of the pro-criminal legislation cake they are baking in Annapolis this year, Senate Bill 293 has passed in the Senate and is now on to the House. The focus of this bill is to change the terminology used when referring to people who are in jail. If this bill passes, we will remove the evil word inmate from our vocabulary and replace it with the kinder and more gentle terminology incarcerated individual, because I guess inmate is too offensive to the person who is in prison for committing crimes. I'm not kidding when I say they are more worried about the feelings of the criminal who hurt you and your family than they are for the safety of you and your family. To be sure, there are a few bills in Annapolis this session that would be helpful in preventing violent crime and keeping bad guys off our streets. However, they are not moving toward passage because they would accomplish getting criminals off our street. One of these is Senate Bill 564, which would make theft of a handgun a felony and punishable to up to 5 years in prison for a first offense and 10 years for a second offense. Can you imagine that? A serious penalty for someone who steals a firearm. You just know that's not happening. There's also a bill that would have addressed last year's legislation which prevents police from questioning or charging juveniles under the age of 13. We have all witnessed the negative impact of this bill firsthand, preventing police from investigating and being involved when a 12-year-old brought a handgun to school with a loaded magazine, or when a school resource officer was seriously assaulted and injured in another school. Sadly, there are plenty more examples as well, and this corrective action is also very unlikely to pass. Another bill would correct a mistake made during the Justice Reinvestment Act. The state reduced the penalty for attempted second-degree murder from a maximum of 40 years down to 30 years. A bill to raise it back to 40 years, the same as a second-degree murder, is still stalled in committee. Finally, House Bill 736, which seeks to address serious repeat violent offenders. This bill would keep violent offenders behind bars where they belong. If an individual has been convicted of a violent crime in the past 10 years or committed a violent crime and then, while out on bail, commits another violent crime, it would prevent them from being released back into community until they had their day in court. But of course, this looks unlikely to pass in this, another year of the criminal. You would think legislative leaders who want to protect their community would want to keep repeat offenders, violent offenders, behind bars, but I guess not. As you can clearly see, the problem of violent crime is going to get worse in our state with the legislators we have in Annapolis that are passing pro-criminal legislation. Our communities will not get safer, violent crime rates will not go down, and the economic cost of out-of-control crime will have a devastating long-term impact on our state and our region. We must change direction and pass laws that let police do their jobs and be the police again, and hold criminals accountable for their actions, and that give law-abiding citizens the rights to protect themselves. Is this too much to ask of our legislature?